Hello, I'm Maura Carley, founder and president of Healthcare Navigation, and last week's video was one where we addressed staffing shortages in inpatient settings, particularly nursing staffing shortages. And we wanted to follow up that video with what you can do when a loved one is in the hospital. And actually, there's a lot you can do, even when you don't have a clinical background. I think we all need to be mindful that the staff in nursing homes and hospitals are very, very busy. And I think nursing homes have had an even more difficult time recruiting since the pandemic. So it is a reality, but there are things that one can do. And so these are just my personal tips, and we welcome others if you want to contact me and add to them. But the first item is presence. Just be there. When you have a loved one in an inpatient setting, it's best if they have a companion for a whole host of reasons. And I will give an example of a hospital stay in my family that was very, very disappointing, and what I was able to do by just being there. So being there and knowing what's going on is very important. So that leads me to the second point, which is awareness. Ask questions and intervene as appropriate. Make the staff aware that you're there and interested and watching. It's never helpful to be a pest or waste anyone's time, but there's a time to intervene and ask appropriate questions. Planning for discharge. This is a problem, especially when someone is caught off guard by the loved one's sudden deterioration in health. I can't tell you how many times I have heard over the years, they're denying my mother's or my father's stay. They're not going to cover anymore, but he or she can't come home. And the sad reality is that we don't get to keep people in hospitals covered by Medicare or other sources of insurance who aren't safe to be alone. It's too expensive a setting. So as soon as this happens, an admission occurs, even if it's an emergency, not planned, you have to be thinking about next steps. Cell phones and other technology, as soon as someone is able, everybody has a nurse call button, but they may not be with it enough to be able to use it. So, it's useful, but not in all instances. Same with the cell phone. Best to leave, in my opinion, your loved one with a cell phone and some way of making sure it's charged and accessible. So if someone isn't there, someone in the family or a good friend can at least be checking in. And there may be other technology over time that that helps us with this. I've always found it of interest that now babies in their own homes are monitored, and yet we have loved ones in ICUs where we have no access to see remotely what's going on there. Just to give you an example, my husband had a disappointing stay. It was a while ago now, but it was scheduled, so that was in our favor. I could make myself more available. Just walking through some of the issues, he was discharged from recovery after surgery, and there just seemed to be a long period of time where no one was checking on him, and he was fine though. And then all of a sudden he stopped talking and was unconscious, and his color was not normal. And maybe it's my mistake. Maybe I should have used the nurse call button, but I called the nursing station and said, I need help. My husband's unconscious. And then, nothing happened. And so I ran down there and said, my husband's unconscious, I need help. Then, of course, we had many people in the room, and since he was so unstable, they moved him closer to the nurse's station. But, I have to say, my husband cannot take, well, he can take it, but he should not take iron. He has a condition where his body overproduces iron, so he shouldn't take it. And this was on his chart and on the wristband. And later that day, someone came in with pills, and I said, "What are those?" And I was told, "Well, this is iron for your husband." And obviously, the systems failed in that instance. He also couldn't participate in therapies because he was losing blood, and when he tried to get up, he was dizzy. And that was a great disappointment because it was not clear who's going to make the decision if he ultimately needs a transfusion. How long do we wait? What are the risks? And it was very disappointing to see that it was just hospital policy. If his blood work came out at a certain disappointing level, a transfusion was mandated, and proactive care in that situation would have made the two of us much more comfortable. The hospital also had what sounded good but didn't work, was a system for meals where instead of your, hospital food being served to you, you called down and ordered off a menu. But the problem was that phone was never answered. It either rang and rang, or it wasn't answered. So that wasn't helpful either. I had once worked at this hospital, so I really didn't want, I just probably should have done more, but I decided to be rather low key about it. But it was an unfortunate stay. It was good I was there for so many of these situations, and at the very end of this disappointing stay, a continuing care nurse came in and said, "Don't think we're extending your husband's stay." And, my attitude was, "Oh, no, trust me, we've already made a pact that we're out of here no matter what tomorrow morning." And the home care therapy was excellent. So in the end, he wasn't given the iron. We managed to get him fed. He did have the transfusion, and although he had very little therapy as an inpatient, he had excellent at-home physical therapy. So a good ending, but it demonstrates the importance of having someone, if at all possible, with an individual who is an inpatient in a hospital or a nursing home. I, better than most, understand how challenging it is to provide appropriate staffing with the appropriate levels of service. But I think in all, this hospital should have done better. But it is what it is. It was a long time ago, and hopefully they are doing a better job. All right, too long a video at this point, so let's sign off. Thank you for listening, and take good care. Bye-bye.